I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Chris Peace to the podcast. This interview is one that we've been waiting a little while for, and some of you watching it might have seen in the news a little announcement of Chris's, well, a pretty big announcement actually, that's happened recently. So we thought, let's wait till we can jump on and discuss exactly what's going on here, because the transaction that Chris has gone through is kind of like the end destination for a lot of business owners that I speak to. So I thought it'd be good not only to just hear from you about like what it's taken you to build a really successful recruitment business and sort of give us a bit of a look behind the scenes of what's gone into building that, but then also, yeah, I think good for people that have got that destination in mind of a nice exit to understand a little bit about what goes into that process, like what your thinking was, like how that experience has been. And yeah, definitely want to dive into also what comes next for you as well, mate. So welcome, Chris. So guess a quick intro for anyone that doesn't know Chris. So Chris is the founder of a very successful recruitment business called Peace Recruitment that he started from his bedroom, built it into a very successful multi-million-pound organization. And yeah, really excited to have you on the podcast, mate, because you've run a few sessions for us in the Unbound group, and you've always added tons of value and a little bit of humor as well, which is always good. So welcome, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me on board again.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for your time. So I guess, yeah, it'd be good to understand that journey for you, mate, of, yeah, early career days and then starting Peace Recruitment. And, yeah, particularly kind of like what made you decide to take the leap from paid employment to, yeah, rolling the dice and going for it yourself.
Well, it was 2008 and it was the global recession. I was working at one of the largest agencies, very successful, and the senior management team in there, even though I'd only been in recruitment for 4 or 5 years. But I knew that the market was in a bit of a mess, and we were like in this big tanker, and the tsunami was coming. And I thought, I wonder if I could jump off this tanker, even though you feel safe on this tanker with all the people and the infrastructure and power that comes with that. But you get side smashed by a tsunami. You don't really know what's happening. And I thought, I wonder if I jump overboard into my little dinghy, if I can turn that dinghy into a speedboat. And that's the analogy I thought to myself at the time. Now, at the time, I wasn't married, didn't have any kids, so there was a timing thing as well there where I only had to really look after myself. This was 15 years ago, obviously now. And I just thought, I'm going to give this a go because I might not get the chance to do it again because different times of life means different responsibilities. So I jumped overboard and I just started paddling the other direction. And I thought, I wonder how quick I can get ahead, catch this crest of a wave before the tanker turns back around and catches me. And I thought, even if nothing else, it might be good fun getting smashed about in a tsunami in a dinghy, rather than just getting totally smashed over. So did I give it a lot of thought? Absolutely not. Did I know that I didn't want to work in a big corporate anymore? Absolutely. But I didn't have any plan. I didn't have any strategy. I had a 2 or 3 page business plan that I went to the bank with to try and make sure I could get my bank account set up. And they were like, "Are you mental?" And my dad was like, "Don't, you're on good money and you're really, well looked after." And my mum, who's like me, was like, just go for it. You'll be great. So there wasn't much thinking behind it, but that was the early careers. And it was just 1st of January 2009, empty laptop, bedroom, me and a puppy spaniel who's 16 years old and incontinent, sleeping on my sofa right now. So just me and the pup. And we just thought, right, let's just give this a go. So that was the early stages, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love a transport analogy for jumping out of planes, jumping into the sea. I think it pretty much describes running your own business really, really well. Yeah. What was it? I guess it must have been a particularly challenging time with the markets in a state of flux at that time. What was it that made you realise that actually sort of like the corporate career that wasn't the way to go for you?
No, when I climbed up the ladder, and I didn't get all the way to the top or anything in this big corporate, but I sort of realized, and if the people are watching this, I'll probably get shot, but I won't mention any names. But I just sort of realized that everybody was making it up as they went along, even at the top level. When you were kind of underneath this layer, as soon as you went to that next level, you thought that all the bosses had all the ideas and they knew exactly what they were talking about. And then actually I went through and thought, oh, I thought it was just me that didn't have a clue what I was doing in life and in business, and I was just making shit up as I went along. And then I went through and I thought, oh, they're doing it as well, but they're just better at blagging it than everybody else, and they're just telling everybody else to do it. And rather than owning it and actually being in the front line, they're just trying to strategically drive it forward. And so I just thought, I could probably do the same job as them, even though I was considerably younger than most of them. And I just thought there was an awakening. There was an awakening that happened. And again, just an itch that I wanted to scratch. I was always relatively entrepreneurial, even from my very early days at school and stuff. Like everybody else was delivering papers, and I'd set up my own egg and bacon delivery round, and I was running the fantasy football and allowing unlimited subs so I could take everybody's change off them at playtime. And my mum worked in a jewellery store, and I was getting wholesale jewellery off her and selling jewellery and stuff. So even when I was like 12, 13, I always thought I'm going to do something like this, and I wanted to be in control of my own destiny. So it was more like a sort of, as I say, an awakening or an epiphany that I thought, I'm going to steer my own ship. But there was no planning behind it. And in the moment at that time, it was before the recession, it was really busy and you couldn't get candidates. But jobs were everywhere. And this was like boom time, real boom time, and money. Public sector just had cash to burn, and there was no PSLs, and frameworks weren't a thing, and you could just win business through relationships, and that's changed a lot. And we'll maybe come to that sort of challenges that are happening now in recruitment later on. I think potentially it'll come out in the wash. So when the market went pear-shaped, with me setting up on my own, it gave me a chance to get candidates on my database, because I set up my own database, and I thought before I would have had nobody to sell. But I thought, look, if I can just eat beans on toast, metaphorically speaking, for a year or 2 years, however long it takes to come out of it, I'll maybe have a database. And if I've got a database, I've got somebody to sell. And then I would back myself to do the business development and actually beat my competition, because it was more nimble and I could undercut them from a cost perspective, which I did initially as well. So it was just sort of everything sort of just aligned. And my risk profile at the time was probably much higher than it is now. So I just thought, let's give it a go. So I'd love to sit here and go, yeah, I had it all worked out. Absolutely not. Sometimes life just throws you a curveball and you've just got to swing the bat, see what happens. So that's what I did. I just took a swing at it.
Yeah, I love it. It's giving me Facebook vibes. Set up in the bedroom, dog on the couch. What were those early days like? Was it smooth sailing? Did you have challenges? How were those early days?
I'm relatively self-motivated, and so the dog was really good for that. For when as a sole trader at the time, because a dog got me in a routine, because she's like scratching at the door, needing out for a pee at 7, right? And then she's ready to have her breakfast, and so you get in a routine, because it would be so easy to just lie in your bed and sit on Instagram or nip off to the gym or go meet your pal for coffee and think, oh, I'm my own boss. Where I held myself accountable, and because I'd been absolutely whipped from this big corporate organization, I was like, my day plan was the same, and I still set myself my own KPIs, and I was very self-motivated. And so I just trucked on. I just almost locked myself in that room for 8 hours a day. But in those early stages, you're frantic, you're excited, you're stressed, you need to make money, but it's a buzz and it's all you think about. You go to bed thinking about it, and you wake up thinking about it, all day you're thinking about it and how you can make it better. And it's cool. You're getting like business cards delivered and signatures designed, and it's just really cool stuff. And so it was exciting. But before I knew it, I'd been in the bedroom on my own for about 2 years, 2 and a bit years. I billed about 30 odd grand in my first year, which was down from 420, I think, the year before with the big corporate, which was me third biggest biller in the UK at the time for them. Because the company, they splintered you up. You could only work within a very restricted area and stuff. So to get 420 out of the size of areas we had for the organization I worked for was a push. And so yeah, it was lonely, but it was exciting. And and then comes a time after a period where you sort of hit what's referred to as the first brick wall, not like a sort of marathon brick wall, but where you need to invest and you need to do something. And that might be technology, or it might be cash flow, or it might be an office space, or it could be staff. And for me, it was a member of staff. And so I took on my first employee after a couple of years, and he joined me on the understanding that he would get a minority equity share after a year settling into the business. And so Jamie joined the company, and he was amazing with me because he and I got on like a house on fire. We were kind of friends from our previous life, and that was really important because I could rely on him. I knew what he could deliver. And he taught me a lot of things that I didn't know. He was like, yeah, we need to get on this LinkedIn thing, and we need to start branding ourselves. We need to do this, and we need to look at our marketing strategy, because he was very SOP, sort of systems orientated, where I was more pick up the phone, let's make some cash. Yeah. So the two of us kind of dovetailed really well. And then shortly after that, we added our third member of the team who came in PAYE as well, which was Tamara. And we added another, what's referred to as another channel to the business. So Jamie and I did white collar, technical, built environment, kind of M&E engineers, architects, surveyors. And Tamara came in and did trades and labor, blue collar. So all of a sudden we could do everything to all the clients. And the three of us were very capable, and that was pivotal, because then at that point we're starting to build things up. So yeah, that was the first brick wall in the investment. But the first couple of years was a bit lonely, but I enjoyed it. But you do need to be self-motivated, and you need to hold yourself accountable. Because if you are a little lazy, or you've got tendency to just skip off, or just, mañana, you'll have a lifestyle business. Nothing wrong with that. But if you want to scale, you need to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, I think these are the things that people often don't talk about in those early stages of business, like focusing on the revenue generating activities, the fact that you don't have a boss telling you what to do, and you could literally do anything, but if you don't do anything, no one's going to pay you. So I love that insight for people in the early days listening.
You've got to divide your time up as well. Again, and we'll come to this later with my future careers. You've got to divide your time up into obviously blocks. You've got paperwork to do. You might have timesheets to get out. You might have references to take. You might have to do the admin, send the CVs, all this sort of stuff. So that's your red stuff. It's called red, blue, black. So you need that behind the scenes. That's your infrastructure. That's the stuff that's the oil in the tank. That's the fuel. That's the stuff behind the scenes. But ultimately, you've got to do lots of blue work, which is your revenue generating stuff. So you've got to be on the phone, you've got to be marketing. And then you've also got to think about the black stuff, which is building that future strategy, future profit, and the planning behind the scenes, thinking about what you're doing. So you've got to be able to have, in my opinion, split your time relatively evenly among that red time, blue time, and black time. Initially, it's all blue, make money or you can't pay the bills. But then when you get to that stage I was talking about, when you've got one or two staff, all of a sudden you're moving away from what you were good at, which for me was blue, sales, revenue generating, and I was spending more time doing the paperwork and making sure everything was compliant and everything was the way it needs to be. And that journey, as you move, as I've moved in the last 15 years, has been challenging, because you have to sort of evolve as a business owner and focus on those things and delegate in a really good way. But yeah, we'll maybe come to that potentially.
How's that journey been for you of evolving as a leader? I know you've worked with coaches along the way. Has it been guided from other people, self-development? How have you navigated that journey of developing yourself as a leader?
It's been difficult. It's been really difficult, because ultimately, sometimes when you're a salesperson, being top of that sales league and confirming the most interviews and, being the main breadwinner, sometimes you feel like that defines you. And there's some people still like, oh yeah, I'm still billing loads of money. And you think that's cool, that's great, but you can only bill so much. You can only go work so many hours and win so many clients before you get to a burnout rate, and you just can't work anymore. And then potentially the only way is down from there, which is not great as a salesperson. Like a football player getting old and slow and working his way back slowly through the team until he ends up on the bench and in the dugout managing. So, but ultimately you can control more in terms of how you do evolve as a manager. But I think it's important to recognize what you're doing and how you do it. But there is going to come a pivotal point in anybody starting a business or running their own career where you do get the payback and you start getting the money, but then it can quite quickly run into sort of disillusioned and stress and burnout if you don't manage your time accordingly. For me, that was a divorce, prioritizing my business because I needed to do it, not spending enough time with my then young children, and not looking after my fitness. I got a bad back. And so it's important that you do manage that, because I didn't manage that period of my life very well. I was like all business because I had 10, 15 staff or something. And I was doing everything. I was doing everything. I was still top sales. I was paying hundreds of workers, like literally doing the payments, doing the payroll. And I was trying to strategize and redesign the website. And then I was trying to do all the black tie events. And I just burnt myself out. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a lot. And so that evolution, and so the pivotal point for me was about 8 years ago when I was introduced to Kai Murray and Shirlaws. And she was the managing director with one of our biggest competitors beforehand. And she came in and helped me and taught me a lot of the stuff, her and the IP from Shirlaws, about how to manage your time. And that's where you learn about red, blue, black. And then, as well as kind of open your mind up to free yourself to read the right books, listen to the right podcasts, take the right notes, look at where you're going to get the marginal gains, stop trying to do everything, and actually just look at the things that are going to move the dial forward, and learn to delegate without feeling guilty. And potentially done is better than perfect. Because I think when you run your own business, you're like, yeah, I need to do everything. Everything needs to be done the way I want it to be done. It's not going to happen. And so letting go of that perfectionism has been a real challenge. Also, me feeling like being top of the league defined me. And it doesn't. Actually, it doesn't. You need to step back from that and pass the baton over to the people that are in that position in their life. And then you need to start passing the credit to them. And then maybe if you manage it right, you'll get to win in the end. And you'll get what you want if you manage the business properly, which obviously I'm really proud and happy to say I've managed to do by passing the business over to my management team just in the last kind of month. So it's important how you manage your time and the expertise that you get in and what you're feeding into your brain, and then how you split your time up.
Love that. Any particular books that have been helpful for you, particularly helpful on the journey for you?
God, I probably do about 15 a year, probably. I prefer the audibles. I prefer. Now, do you know what? There's not one that jumps out. There's loads. I really like, and when he first started coming out, I like Diary of a CEO. I really like the way he communicates, Stephen Bartlett. So his book, Happy Sexy Millionaire, was good. Just the way it sort of spoke to me a little bit. But I mean, there's like the classic ones like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, about property investment and all this sort of stuff, and how to make friends and influence people and all that stuff. There's like the bog standard books, but I'm tempted to go into my phone and Audible and see what's actually there. But I don't do fiction. I always do either biographies or autobiographies and stuff like that, and try and mix it up a bit. But nothing jumps out. But there's so many now, so many.
Yeah. Tons of good stuff out there, isn't there? So it sounds like in those early days, like your secret sauce was kind of like your focus, discipline, identifying the main tasks that you needed to get on with, and the fact that actually when you start out and you're small, if you use it to your advantage, being small can be a bit of a competitive advantage anyway. But I mean, obviously, you've done a really good job of winning business, impressing clients, looking after them. What was your secret sauce as you started to grow as a team and started to hire? How did you think about winning business and retaining clients as you grew?
The secret sauce for me was always customer service. Like, recruitment is a sales game. It is. But for me, it was always more important than that. And I don't mean to come across too about this, but if I'm moving Joe Bloggs out of a job and I think this other job's better for him, I'm fully aware that Joe Bloggs has got potentially a wife and some kids and a mortgage, and it's his career. Like, after his health and his family, career's probably next on the list. And so you need to really look after Joe Bloggs and care about where he ends up and show an interest and try to be really informed and work really hard to get him what he wants. That's a service game. And if that comes across in the way you're communicating and you are trying to service him, you'll actually get loyalty from your candidates. They won't ghost you. They'll look in the eye and tell you why they can or can't do the job. They trust you. They'll refer you on to everybody else. It's the same with clients. After potentially shareholder value and turnover or profit, they're people. And actually, if you read the right books, people, they say to you, people, their internal staff's the most important thing. And then they'll drive the profit and the shareholder value. So depending which way you view it, people and recruitment of those people and where they find their jobs is so, so important. So I never ever saw it as a CV flinging exercise. I really cared about filling that job for my clients and giving them a great service. And so it was always service before sales for me. And that was just innate. And I've always cared. The best feedback I ever had, and it was a one-man band at the time, and this big construction company, engineering, sort of multidisciplinary company, just added me to their preferred supplier list. This is 2009. And I said to the guy, Graham, I was like, you just added me to the national supplier list for you guys. And they're huge. And they're like, you're not even meant to be able to get on these lists unless you're like ISO 9000 and this and part of this, and you've signed up for that and you've jumped through all these procurement. He was like, I've got you on the list. And I was like, why? And he said, you just seem to really give a shit, Chris. And I was like, that's enough for me. I was like, that's enough. And I did. And every candidate I deal with and every client and all my internal staff, I do give a shit because it's too important, because we're messing with people's lives. And so that was the secret sauce, was actually genuine care and making recruitment not a transactional situation. And that's evolved through time. We were the first agency in the UK to become the Institute of Customer Service. And now, above our one-word position, which is important for any business to have a one-word position. So Disney's is fun, Volvo's is safety, Peace Recruitment's is informed. So we want to be fully informed. That's what's our guiding light, being informed. And then above that, we've got 3 pillars that holds up the building. And that's people before profit, service before sales, and relationship before revenue. So I put them in, and you couldn't put a fag packet between, a fag paper between them, because you do need to make profit and you do need to make sales, but it's important that it does come first. And so that's the 3 pillars that holds up the business. And that's an internal and external profit, is we will prioritize the relationship. We'll prioritize the service before we worry about the making of the cash. And the important thing is, if you do that authentically, you'll make more cash than you need to worry about, because actually people can smell it when they're being sold to. Everybody can. You can smell it. Everybody's got a bullshit radar, eh? So we just try to be genuine with the way we do it, which is why one of the values for us has been, no bullshit, total honesty. Your values, a lot of people just stick them on the wall and they never look at them. But we try to live by that. And when I'm communicating internally in the team meetings and when we speak to clients, I'll say that to clients. Can I use one of our values on you, Mr. Client? No bullshit, total honesty. Go and give this job to my biggest competitor because it is unfillable. You're being unrealistic. You can't fill the job. And it would be better if you kept my competitor busy so I can go work on something that's actually real. I'm not going to find you a Swedish-speaking senior engineer in the Highlands on 32 grand. It's just not happening, eh? So go and waste somebody else's time. And so that people can take it. And it seems like the world's kind of twisted that way. So no, that the secret sauce has been service before sales and customer service and genuine care.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I think you're spot on. A lot of companies, you see the values and the mission statement plastered on the website, and then it's maybe something that's talked about in a team meeting once when it's announced, and then never revisited. But it sounds like that is like core to what's going on in the team at Peace Recruitment. How do you keep those values alive in the business? How do you make sure that's like ingrained and part of the culture?
That was obviously, that's where most companies slip up, is they don't talk about them enough, right? So every team meeting once a month, we all sit around and we're doing our targets and we're referring things out to the team with no bullshit, total honesty. And from the body of the Kirk, everybody, it's not from managers, we don't vote, it's not orchestrated in a really weird way. We just go, has anybody got any nominations for living the values? And we've got 5 values. And then it might be the trainee that actually says, I want to nominate so-and-so that I've been working with because he's been grafting really hard to make sure he got enough jobs in for me to fill them on his behalf. And I've seen how hard he's worked to deliver the goods for those candidates. So it might be the trainee talking to the manager, or it might be the manager talking about somebody acting with care in the room. And that might just be a tiny little thing like, the other day that I saw Sarah do all the dishes that were left in the sink because all these are manky and you never tidy up after your lunch. The oldest argument in the office book, who's leaving all these spoons and forks and nice? And somebody just comes along and cleans up and tidies up at the back here, but they're making sure the environment stays nice. And so it can be from the silliest thing, but see when it comes from the body of the cook and it's from your peers and it's not the manager going, here's a bottle of red wine for employee of the month. We do that shite as well, and it's genuine, but it's actually really powerful when it comes from there. So we refresh the values and we discuss them in every team meeting at least. But I hear people mentioning it, as I mentioned earlier, to clients on the phone. So it's important, and you need to get that nailed on, really, if that's something you want to prioritize in your business, because values and culture and your ethics within a business is so important as you scale. If you get that wrong, it could all come tumbling down. Your foundations are built on sand.
Yeah, I love that. What are some other things that you've found have been instrumental to your growth and your success of scaling? I'm thinking particularly one thing I've heard you talking about a few times of this, like, which analogy of like taking customers almost on like dates. I love that one.
Well, so the question is, what instrumental things have I put into the business that make it better? It's difficult to say, because do you know what? It's a small business. You're making tons of decisions every day, but to talk about the analogy you've mentioned, I see as this relationships before revenue. You could call it relationships before ride, I suppose, in a dating sense, because you've got to, you know what I mean? You've got to schmooze them. You've got to buy the flowers. You've got to get to know them. You've got to take time to be fully informed if the relationship is something that you want to take to the next level. It doesn't matter what kind of relationship you're joking about or we're seriously talking about, but the clients, you want to build a relationship with them. Too many folk now are just flinging CVs, and it's become the norm. And the problem is it's becoming more and more as you drive towards frameworks and portals and big companies. And it's like they feel like they're saving money, but what they're doing is they're driving away talent, and the talent's going elsewhere. These big companies are losing talent because they're going to other organizations. So yeah, no, I do say to the guys, look, you've got to take the clients and the candidates out and you've got to look them in the eye. And so often now, you know, they're not even meeting them for a coffee. They're just getting in and seeing the CV over, and it's a mess because it feels like it's fastest finger first sometimes. And that's not what recruitment was meant to be. And it's why recruiters get a bad reputation, I think, because you could be charging 15, 20, 25% of a hefty salary, and you just got a CV off LinkedIn and chucked it out to 50 people. And then that's worth 15%. That's not worth 15%. It's worth about 15 quid. So, and no wonder clients don't want to use you if they don't feel like they're getting added value. So we're trying to make sure that we are adding value and that we're bringing them the best that's available, even when they're not hiring. And that's something that we've done really well over the years, is working on those speculative roles and bringing them those real key individuals that they didn't even know they needed. So we try to prioritize the candidates and add in value rather than fill the jobs, but we do both. And that's been for 8 years. We've been filling it like 33%, where the industry average is, I think, like 20% or something. Yeah, so you do so many things as a small business that to actually label one or two things that made the big difference. But for me, early on, getting the right vibe from a recruitment perspective of perm versus temp versus contract is important, because if you're an all perm business, nobody's ever going to buy you, because it's feast and famine. You could do X one month, and then you could do minus X the next month because you've got, you know, rebates coming in. So you've got to keep the wool from the door with a contract database of people that are constantly earning. Temp is good as well, because that's that churn in it. You can get those spikes if you really need it. And perm is the cream on top, because it doesn't cost you any money. You don't have to worry about cash flow. Factoring the business on the temp side was something that was really important for us, and ensuring our debt, because obviously companies go out of business. So in paying that little bit of money, and it is just a little bit out of your profit to give you peace of mind to sleep at night, has been something else that we've done that was really important. And for me, in the technical and professional side of the business, leaving loads of cash in the business was important. I'm not flashy. I'm not really into stuff. I like experiences, and I like a bargain. You know, and at Tesco's, I might not pay full price for the wine. I always get the one that's 12 quid reduced to 9. Even if it's my favourite wine and it's full price, I'll just get something else. It's just little wee things. And so making sure the cash stayed in the business, not rinsing it. And that's really important when we come to the end of this chat, when we're about making sure you can do a transaction, because if you've got no net assets in the business, because ultimately you're only left with a database and staff. And if you go and then the staff leave and you've got no temps and nothing to say for it, and there's no cash there's nothing for the company to potentially buy if you do eventually want to do an exit. So there's so many things to do at that point. But like I said earlier, the most important thing I did was taking on a coach 8 years ago. It changed my thinking and it gave me the headspace, and it allowed me to put my shit and my stresses up to her. And I think before that, I allowed my stresses and pressures to go down onto my team. And if I look back at myself as a leader before coaching, that's embarrassing. Some of the stuff I would do, like chew people out in the office, and just my delivery and the framing of the way that I wanted to communicate it. They could tell it was coming from passion and a love, but I was wrong. And I went and I fannied around at about 15 staff for a while as I took people on and tried to grow and didn't do it right, and it ebbed up and down. And that was down to me and a lack of clarity around roles and responsibilities and strategy and planning, because I wasn't spending enough time on the black, and I was still too busy trying to be sales and do red and then just pretend at being strategic leader. It doesn't work. So that changed my thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you can get support. You can get support without paying a fortune for a coach. I mean, you guys on the Unbound team, you guys have got a network of tons of folk in there, and you've got actually the WhatsApp last night was pinging mental. I'm trying to watch the Celtic game. I had to mute it. I was like, shut up. Group chat. They try to help each other at 9 o'clock at night. I was like, so there's free ways to get support. You don't need to pay through the nose for an amazing coach, as I did, worth every penny. But there's ways you can join groups and WhatsApp chats and stuff like that, and you can listen to podcasts and actually scoop up a load of information for free. And then maybe if you implement some stuff, and that's the key thing, implement, and eventually your profitability gets to the stage where you can have somebody that will work with you one-to-one, and then that gives you that opportunity to push your shit and stresses up the way, and then you can put your best foot forward as a leader in the business. And that was hugely pivotal for me.
Yeah, I resonate with a lot of stuff you've said there, because you carry a lot running your own business, don't you? And yeah, the personal growth stuff from books and podcasts is great, but doesn't always shine a light on what your blind spots are, or the things that you're missing, or the big opportunity areas. And yeah, it's good to hear you talking about like the options that are out there, because I think something that I hear from business owners a lot is like how lonely it can be, and whether that's from a coach, a mentor, or a peer group, just understanding that actually other people are going through similar challenges to you. It's not all as rosy as everybody makes out on social media. Yeah. So on that, what have been some of the more challenging moments or tough decisions you've had to make in Peace Recruitment?
That one's easy. We went from hundreds of folk out working with 24 internal staff. We were turning over 8-9 million at that point or something. COVID hit. It was our year end. It was our best ever year. And all the temps got finished. All the contractors got finished. All the perms got cancelled. And everybody got furloughed. I used to call it, I didn't even know what furloughed meant. I called it furloughed initially because it sounds more Scottish. What's furloughed? And so I was like, what's this furlough thing? Googling furlough. And me and my business partner, who was running Trades and Labour, Tamara, we basically had between us 24 landlines diverting to us. And so we were making no money. We had no staff. Fortunately, we had cash in the bank, so we didn't have to do all these crazy loans and stuff. But that was a panic, because then we had hundreds of guys like, how am I getting furloughed? Am I getting furloughed? Or can I get another job? Are we essential workers? Can I get back out to work? Can I get a new rate if I am an essential worker? Because construction was sometimes defined as that. What's the rules? Am I allowed to go in? What do I need to wear? What kind of mask should I get? And we were like, and at that time I was on my own in a 1-bedroom flat, separating. And I remember in the house, not able to leave, just me and the dog, and my phone just ringing off the hook. I was probably drinking too much, because it was the only thing that took the edge off it for me. So I was on my own in the evenings having a bevy, and then I was up and on the phone. No furlough for the business owner. No furlough for the business owner. And you forget that. I mean, heaven forbid that it was if something like that ever happened again. But there won't be too many businesses that went from that to having lots of staff to having everybody else. Yeah, COVID, they all got paid 80% of their money for watching Netflix and doing Joe Wicks in their house and that, and getting weight, losing weight or getting fat, depending which way they went, which everybody's had done, ordering Amazon stuff and then new chucky bottoms to sit in. And I was like, oh, I don't get money if the business doesn't make profit. I get dividends. The business is losing money hand over fists. And I'm busier than ever because every phone line diverts to my mobile. And the email's going off the charts, and I've got to learn all that stuff. So that was mental in the middle of a personal, difficult situation. So without a doubt, I would challenge anybody to say that they've had a more challenging time than COVID, and that was difficult. But you know what? It's made me so resilient, and you'll learn things at rock bottom about yourself, you know, that you don't learn at the top of the hill. And there was a time there when I was at the top of the hill, and basically starting March, I was in Vegas with my mates for my 40th, and we were at the heavyweight championship fight with Deontay Wilder, and it was like, this was amazing. And then we went to Hakkasan for the VIP party. I was like, we are balling. I've got all this, and I'm like, this is great. And then life just went, he looks like he's having too much fun. Let's fuck him up. So, and then I was like, oh, in April, guess what? So that was shit. So yeah, but I tried to come back stronger, and I did. And I was worried about the Great Resignation and everybody leaving and the salaries going up when everything came back bigger. And so at that point, I came up with an innovative idea where I removed the threshold in our business. So we didn't have to make a certain amount of money before they got what is an amazing commission structure. We pay like 20% over $4,000, 25% over 10, and 30 over 15 uncapped. So people can make mega bucks with us. And the best ever month for one of our guys is 114 grand in a month. So do the maths on that. He did all right. So yeah, the commission structure thing was a challenge, and I thought we might not make as many placements. And so what I said was, let's remove the threshold, pay everybody 20% on everything. So if they're only making one placement a month, that's good. And then we'll only give it to them if they stay the second half of the year. Because I thought a lot of people would come back and be like, are we working? Are we hybrid? Are we this? Are we that? Can I get a pay rise? And everybody was hiring because everybody was leaving with the Great Resignation from organizations. And I went, stay. This is how we're going to do it. This is what our plan is. Clear communication. Try to lead with empathy as well. And it worked out absolutely brilliant because we end up getting rid of the people that we weren't interested in, or they took a package. And we kept a real core team, and then from on that we kicked on again. I think we did 28% year on year from our best ever year the year after that. And then folk were like, that was the great idea about the commission. And then when everybody was hunting your staff those first 6 months, my team were like, I'm getting 20% everything, and I'm getting to do what I want, and I've got an empathetic leadership team here, so I'm on board. And then actually that helped us attract new people into the business, and so we ended up making some amazing hires at that point as well. So that was just one little thing, which was shit. But I came out of it better, and it was the best idea I ever had. And then it took us to the next level again. So, yeah,
that's awesome.
Long-winded answer to your question. Sorry about that.
I love it. No, I think it's a great lesson that, these tough times, when you look back in the rearview mirror, they can be a blessing in disguise, even if they feel really challenging at that moment. Thinking about what's been going on more recently, then with the exit that's happened. So when did you start thinking about that, and when did you start sort of laying the early groundwork for that future transaction?
It was when I started working with my coach, because she was always like, we need to start with the end in mind. She went, let's build the business so you can sell it. And I was like, I'm 37 or whatever I was at the time. And I said, I'm not going to sell. We didn't make any money. We weren't making as much money back then as we have been in the more recent years. She said, let's just play the game, build the business as if we are going to sell it. So let's get the processes right, and let's get it all backed up. And so that if an investor does come in 5 years and wants to give you loads of money, for example, you've got it ready. So she's like, let's just play the game. And I was like, cool. She was like, what's your number? What age do you want to be? And, how's it going to look? And so I said my number. And I said, I want to be 45 when I no longer had to work every day in the business. And I turned 45 on the 5th of September. And she said, right, let's go with that. That seems, why did you get to that number? Where did it go? So actually, it was 8 years ago, but I didn't think about it all the time. Although I used to have a whiteboard and it had a candle in it at 45. So those that have worked in the business for a long time will remember that my whiteboard where I put my sales up and my targets and things will remember that that was something I had as on around my vision board on my whiteboard. So it was something that I've thought about for a while, along with I really want a Porsche 911 and I really want a apartment in Tenerife. So these are things that I've tried to sort of manifest. Not that I'm really into that, but it doesn't do anybody harm thinking about it and having a wee vision board and talking about it when you've had a glass of wine or whatever. So you may as well start with the end in mind. So it was years ago, mate. It was years ago I started talking about it. And then it's all come to fruition. But realistically, about a year and a half ago, external organizations started to come in when they saw us doing big numbers of growth year on year because they get reports and the brokers come in, they see it. Yeah, it's like updating your green banner on LinkedIn. When as soon as you put in your annual accounts, they go, holy shit, they're doing all right. They've got cash, they've got this because they can see your accounts. So the next thing I know, the companies are on to me to say, look, we might be interested. Can we buy you? Blah, blah, blah. And nothing ever sat right because I felt we were going to lose I felt like I was going to drown the baby. And actually, I wouldn't be where I was now if it wasn't for the team. Like I've been an important part of it, but everybody's played an important role in here. And so I thought, I wonder how I could do it where the team could buy it off me, but the number was too high. Nobody's got those kind of numbers now. So how can you do it? So it was a couple of years ago, I thought, if I start stacking up the cash reserves, I could do what's called a VIMBO, which the vendor, which is me, the owner, 100% owner of the business in Masterpiece, initiated management buyout. And if you stack up your cash pot, you can then scoop it out, get your entrepreneur's relief on it, 10% on the first million, 20% on everything thereafter, basically, which is good tax these days, especially with the Tories and the changes that are probably coming with the new budget that will come in. Those are good numbers for a tax position. I looked at EOTs, employee ownership trusts, which is something that if you are listening to this or watching this and you've got a big team, it's really good for the owner. Very good tax situation. You'll pay zero tax. It's not as good for your staff that are going to becoming the new owners of the trust. So, but it's a really good way, efficient way of you getting your money out. And that's something you should definitely Google. Employee ownership trust, EOTs. Management buyout for me sat better because actually the company are actually buying it. The new owners buy it off me. So a couple of years ago, looked into it, rejected all the other offers, decided to take slightly less, but hand it over to the management team. And then the baby I knew would be looked after. So yeah, that was the deal. And then I've been in conversations with Alison and Wishy and Lewis for about just over 6 months to get across the line.
It must be give you good excuse the pun, peace of mind to know that the business is in good hands and continuing that journey with the people that you know and trust.
Yeah, and they're going to sprinkle their own little bit of magic on it, and they're ready to spread their wings. I wasn't adding as much value in the business as I was because the conditions have actually been not too bad. And so if I wasn't adding as much value, I was stopping them from growing. So actually, maybe if I look at it pragmatically, I was creating maybe a potentially quite an expensive, in terms of dividend, bottleneck for the development of the team who were beneath me in terms of an organizational chart, obviously not physically beneath me, that's derogatory. So it's allowing them to step up, changes it, and 3 heads are better than 1. And they're a bit younger than I am, and so they've got new energy, and they're probably more adapt with dealing with the new generation of recruiters that's coming through. I'm quite old school and I'm like, make it happen, get it done, work harder, KPIs. I'm not nuts on the KPIs, but I'm still realize the importance of these things where I'll probably get shot for this. But some of the newbies, you talk to them about what they need to do in day planning and organization, they'll chuck micromanagement at you. And we're really lucky, but they will chuck micromanagement at you. Or you talk to them about this, that, working harder, like, no, life-work balance, and mental health. And I know all these things are good, but sometimes they're getting overused micromanagement and mental health and stuff. And I'm sure there's lots of people, but the people that are really suffering with these things are being done a disservice by people that are using it as a tool to manipulate or get away with shit in the workforce, which is why we're seeing some organizations just forcing people back to the office and greater scrutiny and tech coming in to look at your keystrokes of your mouse. And then somebody else has redesigned something else that moves your mouse around. So when you go for a nap at lunchtime, your mouse looks like it's still moving. So every action has a reaction. And so for me, I needed to create an action, and hopefully the reaction will be that the management team will be ready to take over and with new ideas, new energy, and really excited, because they're going back to where I was 15 years ago, but from a higher point, which is frantic, excited, and stressed, and probably insecure, and don't know if they can do it without me at the helm, which they totally can. But rather than starting from zero like I did, the path's gone up. We've gone through brick wall 1, brick wall 2. We've got into advanced growth. We're in a good position. They're starting there, but so they're starting here with a cash pot, a brand, you know, everything, social media in place, a huge database, PSLs, they're on all the frameworks. We've got the ISO 9000 and blah, 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 all the everything you need to work with all the companies. So they can then take it and be excited and stressed and kick on even further and take it to the numbers they want to take it to. And obviously I'll benefit out of that as well, because I'm still a minority shareholder. I've held on to 12.5%, which is be able to find that on Companies House. So I'm not telling any trade secrets.
Well, some mega stuff you've shared there. I think particularly around for anyone that's like looking to go on that path, like some of the less sexy stuff about like processes, SOPs, like sounds like you've been on a slow transition of sort of like removing the reliance of you on the of the business that you have on the business. And yeah, like allowing your team to step up. So I think some mega insights there. Also wanted to just ask you there about something you mentioned there about sort of like vision boards as well, because, you know, that's something that, you know, some people might, you know, see that as a bit woo-woo, but I loved another word or phrase that you used there of like reverse engineering. And I think whether you want to exit the business or achieve any goal in business or life, I think that's a really great place to start from, is like getting really clear on exactly what is it that I want and reverse engineering the plan to get there. And yeah, just interested to hear your thoughts around that and what's on the vision board next.
Yeah, you've got to start with the end in mind. It's like, to be honest, when you start a small business or you decide to go off and do your own, you just jump in the car and decide to drive somewhere. And that's all right for a while, just going for a wee drive. But after a while, you're like, where are we going? Do we have enough fuel? You know, or do we have everybody in the car that we want to go to this place we're going? You need to have a destination in your sat nav that you want to go. And so after a while of playing at it, you really do need to grow up as a business owner and go, right, what's that sat nav? Where are we going? And it took me a good few years. And so I put in the number I wanted and the age I was going to be and all that, and how I envisaged the business looking at that point. And for me, the vision board thing was something that kind of just helped me. So actually, when I open up my cupboard in the morning, I've just got an A4 bit of paper of what I think I want. And so it's hidden. Nobody else sees it because nobody else is going into my cupboard to get my shirts, because do my own ironing. So, and to hang them up. And so, yeah, I just see it. And I sometimes glance, and then underneath it, I've got a picture of Alex Ferguson, Richard Branson, and Diego Maradona. Just because I think that for me, they're three people that I look up at. So if I'm having a problem, and it's a bit cheesy, folk will think it's a bit meh. But anyway, I just think, how would Alex Ferguson deal with this? How would Richard Branson deal with it? And how would Diego Maradona deal with this sort of challenge? And they're all three different personalities, I think, as well. And maybe if I could get a concoction of all three of them, it would be pretty mental. Like if it was all three of them had a baby, that would be raj, right? But anyway,
good party.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, especially if Diego was catering. Naughty. So yeah, so I like it, and it doesn't do anybody any harm, and it's private for me. It's in my cupboard. It's not private anymore. It's on your podcast, but I think it's good, and it doesn't do anybody any harm. And I've not changed it because because it's so hot off the press, the management buyout. I still want the car, but I've got my lease on a Tesla. And I still want my villa in Tenerife or my apartment in Tenerife, but ultimately I can't afford it just now because I'm earning out of the business over the next X amount of years because they're paying me out of future profits. So I can't I can't afford to go and buy those things like straight off the bat. And I don't really want it either. So I've got things like me sitting by a pool, a picture of somebody by a pool, working by a poolside on a laptop. So that's working abroad, a golf course, and a guy working out. So I want to spend more time at the gym because I want to try to look after myself in my second half of my life. So that's the sort of stuff that's on my vision board now.
Love it, love it. And is that on the horizon then for what comes next for you then? A bit more working abroad?
Well, potentially, I've got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, so I can't really disappear off, do you know what I mean, anywhere. And I've got them like 40% of the time. And so I've got my hands full there most of the time. So there's not been just flying off into the sunset. But it'd be nice to do 6 weeks with them in the summer in a villa somewhere hot and enjoy quality time with them. And they're not going to stay young forever. So it's more of a longer, medium term sort of goal. But right now, what's on the cards for me is I've got a week left in Peace Recruitment to do the handover. And then I'm going to study because I left school with no qualifications, basically, or I got like a C in English and a B in PE or something like that. I can't even remember, but it's something like that. And so I'm doing the equivalent of like an HND in business leadership and management, which I can then springboard into university if I decide to go and do a proper degree and stuff. But I don't think I will. I just wanted to get that monkey off my back in terms of maybe the lack of academic pedigree, which I never had when I was 16, 17, because I was a little idiot. So study for a couple of months because I've got 4 essays to write for that qualification, work out and see my mum and dad, see my kids a bit more, have a little break, and then come 2025, I'll be setting up my own proper coaching business via Shirlaws, who have been teaching me for the last 8 years. So they only allow you in if you hit certain categories to become one of their members, which is lots of experience, built and sold a business, blah, blah, blah. So I tick the boxes. So I've joined them because I know all their IP from the other side of the desk. So I've joined them, which is now called Powered by Shirlaws. And my company is going to be called Chris Peace Coaching. And my idea is to use a one-word position. It was informed earlier for Peace Recruitment. Mine is going to be empower. I want to try and empower new or CEOs and managing directors and owners and founders of businesses, recruitment or otherwise. It doesn't really matter. It's not specific for that. I want to empower them to help them achieve their goals. And I'm going to pass on, hopefully, lots of experience and knowledge to try and help them be the best version of themselves. So I'm moving the other side of the desk and I'm going to try to become a coach, which I'm really excited about. So there's lots of studying to do for that as well. So I'm excited to be doing that. So watch this space. But yeah, it's cool.
Doesn't sound like you're going to be bored. I'm sure. Yeah, I know that you've got so much valuable experience to share with people, and I'm sure there might be a few people watching this that would be interested in a conversation with you about that. What's the best way for anyone that's interested in having a chat with you to get in touch?
Yeah, I mean, I've not updated my LinkedIn profile yet because officially I'm still the managing director of Peace Recruitment, but this time next week I will have. So best way to get me is just on LinkedIn and just drop me a DM if there's any business owners out there that want a bit of free advice or want some support. It's not like I'm a lawyer. I just start the clock and charge you from day one. It's, there's a couple of dates first before you decide if you want to jump into bed. And then it has to work out and it needs to be clear. And I'm in a really fortunate position where, all being well with Peace Recruitment, I would be earning every month for the next X amount of time as I earn the money out, which is great, right? But what it allows me to do is it allows me to only work with people that I want to work with because it's not a financial decision. So I want to work every day with people that are like-minded, that add value, that don't drain me, that have got good energy, that I get on with. And that includes clients. Like if somebody wants to pay me a couple of grand or whatever, I'm like, and they're not right, or they're not going to implement and they're not going to follow through, no thanks. Give me somebody who's motivated and excited and fun to work with and's got a great idea who wants to pay me considerably less than that. I'd rather work with them because I want to add value and help. But that's a lucky situation for me to be in now, financially and professionally, that I can afford to say no to the business. But it means also then I can stick to my plan of being genuine and authentic and only work with the clients I really want to work with, where I can add value. So that's cool. Yes, but if anyone wants to have a chit chat, I'm available. Just hit me up on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think it's like an earned privilege, isn't it, to get to that position where you can run a business that you fucking love, work with clients that you love. And I'm also excited for the session that you're going to come and run for the Unbound crew, where the theme of the day is build a business that you fucking love. Because yeah, those early days, like you shared, there's a period where there's graft. We've got to focus on the revenue. We've got to pay the bills. But yeah, for me, that's so important. Like building a business that you actually enjoy doing, because yeah, you spend a lot of time at work, and yeah, super important.
No, it definitely is. I mean, you've got to have fun. You've got to have fun with it. And do you know what? We've had so much fun. All the trips we've been on and the laugh we have in the office and stuff. And the culture is so, so, so important. And the people you're working with, like I get the piss taken out of me all the time. There's no boss kind of mentality. Yes, they listen. Yes, they take support. Yes, they take advice, but they'll roll their eyes and tell me to beat it as well if I'm overstepping the mark or I'm just getting my knickers in a twist. And that it's important because you're there for so much of your life. And so yeah, having fun and not taking yourselves too seriously and not believing the hype either. Like leave the car until you can actually afford it. You know, you don't need those expensive shoes. Keep it in the business, reinvest it, and then, delay the gratification. And that's the problem now these days. I think everybody wants the dopamine hit straight away from their Instagram or for their money or the fancy car or to make it look like everybody else that's amazing. I've never, ever, ever done that. Never. And I don't see that changing anytime massively soon. I've got a few key purchases I want to get, but yeah, it's all assets that hopefully will add value as well. So yeah, don't believe the hype and just crack on and have fun. And do you know what? You just focus on good input and customer service and care, and everyone will come out the other end good. I always just say to the guys, you stick enough meat at the end of the sausage machine, that's KPIs, activity, care, love, service, calls, whatever it is. As long as you've got that middle process and the product bit right, sausages will just pop out the other end.
Mm.
So many people are waiting at the end for a sausage to pop out and they forget about the good stuff at the other end. And so I'm like, let's just keep focusing on productivity and activity and good stuff going in, and we'll just see what comes out the other end. And it's always good. It's always, for us, it's been good anyway. But no, thanks for having me on today.
Mega advice to finish on there. I think that's the perfect moment to finish this. And yeah, really, really appreciate your time, Chris. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.